So on this video I'm going to have a little chat to you about the trees that I've got up here at Grassy Bottom. And I've got quite a few, and although we're only in 1/4 of an acre, I've managed to cram a lot in. Because there's always trees for any site of any size. There's always a tree to suit it. So I'm going to start with this one, and this one is a beauty. And I've shown this one a few times now. And this one is sorbus commixta, and it's called Olympic Flame. In autumn, this one's going to go absolutely stunning, a stunning colour. It's going to go reds, yellows and oranges. And it keeps this almost columnar effect, although maybe it goes a little bit wider than the ordinary columnar types of tree. It'll nevertheless still remain quite tight. And this one's new to me, as you know. I ain't had it that long. But them leaves are absolutely huge. Now, the last sorbus that I had, which was very, very similar to this, was one called Leonard Messel. And that was a very small tree as well. And it had equally big leaves like that. So most of the trees I've got in this garden are really small trees. So a small tree is something that's maybe up to 25 feet, possibly 30. But 25 feet on average, they'll make in my garden. I'm on chalk, remember. So it will vary depending where you are. Now this is Cretaceous, and it's called Paul Scarlet, this particular one. I'm not 100% sure that it is Paul Scarlet, but once these flowers come out, it'll probably give me a bit more of an idea. Now I bought it as Paul Scarlet, but the picture that it was showing was a different type, to be quite honest. But hopefully it is Paul Scarlet. Now it's actually down the side of my hedge, and the reason it's here really is to help make the garden a little bit more secluded, or the house itself really, because we're overlooked by the school, which I don't mind. But this just helps to give us a little bit more privacy when we're sat out on the floating deck. Again, this is a smaller tree. This will probably only make 20 feet. Has a lovely rounded head. But it's lovely. So remember, all the trees I'm going to be showing you I've had here for 3 years in the garden. So they'll be about, I would say a lot of them will probably be something like 7 years old, like this one here. It'll be around 7 years old. So this one is really skinny, this one. And this is a Fagus. It's Dawick Gold. And Fagus is a lovely species of tree, but some of them can get absolutely huge. Now this one still has its label on, so it's 2 to 3 meters in 10 years. So remember, when they talk about the size, they usually refer to it as in years, and usually it's about 10 years they judge it by. So it's probably only going to make about, what, 10 foot in 10 years. So that's pretty good, really. That's slow growing. And that's the sort of tree that I would recommend that you do look for if you've got a very restrictive garden. So that's Fagus Dawick Gold, and that's a really, really nice one, that one. And it will have yellow leaves. They're not out yet. We're still early on in the year. So they're not out, whereas most of the sorbus are. This one isn't. Now, silver birches, everybody knows the silver birch. And I love silver birches. And I have about, I think, 4 in this garden. Now this is a multi-stemmed silver birch. So it's Betula jacumontii and Utilis, which is the Himalayan birch. And it's very white barked, as most of them are. Not all are white. Some of them can be brown, some can be, well, if it's a silver birch it is. But there's different types of Betula. But it's the silver birches I go for. So what I tend to do with this one, and I've done it with great effect before, is I wait till it tries to send up a leader. Even as a multi-stemmed, it's going to try and send up a leader. The nursery will have done their work on it, and as you can see there, there's a lot of multi-stemming going on, but eventually one of them will try to break, like that one there. You can see the stub, and it will try to create a leader. Now it looks like, because I forget, I've clipped it that many times, there's another one looked like it broke there, and I've cut that off as well. And then what happens eventually is they form this lovely canopy, as this one's doing. And what I shall continue to do for at least the next 2 to 3 years is I shall continue to keep nipping them out. So you can make out the cut on that one, and that's what I do to them all. So I'll clip each year where I think it needs clipping back, and it'll keep it contained. And then after a while I've found, and as I found with the previous garden, it will eventually stop trying to be a monster and settle down a little bit more. Now obviously this varies from garden to garden. At the moment this birch hasn't got enough leaves out. In fact it's got hardly any at the moment, but they are breaking. And it's showing its catkins at the minute, and they're great. That's one nice feature of the silver birch, is the catkins early on. And I've just shook that and a load of dust come off, but I think I'll try it again, see if we can capture it on film. This is what we get, the pollen. Maybe not catching that, but anyway, it has a pollen that comes out on it. So I love silver birches, and that is a multi-stem. Later on I'll show you some different types of them, because it's a really interesting group of trees, the birches. And as I say, one silver birch would definitely fit in your garden, especially a multi-stem. Now this is Corylus avellana contorta. It was already in the garden when we moved here, but it was a mass of twigs, sorry. So that mass there continued all the way down to the ground. And if you check my videos on this channel, you will see when I clip this one back to show you what I actually did to it. So I removed a lot of lower branches, and the one thing that people don't do with this one is they don't actually clear its throat, so to speak. So they never see this lovely look that they've all got, all contortas have. And I keep cutting all the lower stems as they come. I go back in and I clip them back off, or I push them, brush them off and get rid of them, because it will take over again. And I'll just show you now what I mean. So you can see it's starting to break again there. So what I will do is I'll go in and I'll just simply break those off, all of them. As we get going, I should take every single one of those off and keep that trunk looking clean and clear. So it's really nice, that. I like it. I get lots of pigeons that nest in this one. In fact, there's a nest. So lots of pigeons nest in this, and there's been several families over the last 3 years come off as well. Mainly wood pigeons, but also collared dove. I've had 2 sets of collared doves come off in this tree. So that's a beauty. So that's Corylus avellana contorta. This tree is probably 20 years old, looking at it, and it's pretty much now at the height it's going to be. So it's about 12 foot, I would say, but it looks absolutely stunning. We'll look at it from a different view, and that's what we get. Beautiful, but you've got to remember, you've got to clear the throats of them, and then you get this look. Now obviously if you buy a small one, it'll come as practically a shrub, and then you have to start work on it, and over time you should be able to create that. Okay, so we'll take you to another silver birch. This silver birch is a Jacquemontii. So yeah, this is a Betula Jacquemontii, and it's one called Silver Shadow, and Silver Shadow remains really squat and small. This has been travelling around with me for the last 3 houses. And when I originally bought it, I had to hide it in the garden for about 3 years, 4 years with my ex-wife, so she didn't find it because it was almost like a cane. In fact, the cane that came with it was actually wider than the tree itself. It was very, very small. But since then, it's come on a tree. So when I bought it, it was more like that size. That's all it was, but as a straight stick. Now, over the last few years, I've carried it around in pots because I didn't want to leave it, because silver shadow is hard to get hold of because it's hard to propagate. I doubt that's ever going to make more than 10 feet. It's never grown much more than it is at the moment since I've put it in here. And I finally put it in the garden when I first moved up to Grassy Bottom, and it's struggled since then because it's trying to get settled in. Its roots are still settling. And silver shadow is probably, in fact, it's listed as being one of the whitest barks of any silver birch. And it is, and it's unblemished. And I was lucky to get hold of this one because you just can't get them. They're sold as these, but they're generally not the silver shadow. They actually put something else in the places because they're hard to get hold of. So we'll move up to this next one, and this is an acer, and it's a Davidii type acer, and it's called Viper. And the good thing about this one is it has this wonderful bark, and it's the snake bark maple, and they tend to look better in winter, to be quite honest with you. And these little stems in winter are red, so when they start growing new they go red, and they're really nice. Now at the moment it's producing its flowers, then eventually it'll just drop those. And I've actually found some further up the garden. I'm not sure whether it's from this particular acer, but they look very, very similar at the moment, but they're only little tiny things. So I'm just going to keep my eye on them for the moment and see what happens. Now this won't get very big. It'll probably end up maybe 20, 25 feet, which I suppose for most people is big. But remember, you can prune them as they get going, which is what I'm going to do. This one's already had a lot of pruning done to it. And the idea of this one is that it will come over this section here. So it'll come over this path. Where's my finger gone? There it is. I lost my finger then. Right, so it's going to come over here and it's going to go over that path. And my intention is to make you feel like you're going under a tunnel eventually, because it'll allow me to do that. And it'll also do the same on this side of this arch, which is the Flintstones arch. And I shall do a lot of pruning to get it just how I want it. Now, a lot of people think that some trees, you can buy them just how they look now, like the silver birch, which is over there. But you can't. It takes a lot of pruning and a lot of skill and experience. Well, I say a lot of skill. It's not skill, really. It's just experience. It's just practice. And just keep chopping them. And you're looking for some sort of a shape. And it's relatively easy to do. And what's the worst can happen if you cock it up? It just looks rough for a few years maybe, and then it'll grow back and it'll look nice again. So that's a really nice one, and that's the snakebark maple. So that's Acer Davidii Viper. So while we're on the acers, let's move over to this one. This one's Acer Griseum, and this is a very small tree, and it annoys me a little bit, this one, because it takes an absolute age for the leaves to come out, and by the time they've come out, we're practically halfway through summer. But that's my fault, really, because I keep removing it from its pot, moving it, because this is another tree that I've carried around with me for the last 2 houses. And it's doing well now. And this one's called the Paperbark maple. And you can see just why from that bark. And it's lovely. And I would say this is probably a good small tree to get hold of, because it won't grow very big at all. I think the biggest one I've ever seen was about 12 foot. They can get bigger than that. I've no doubt they can get bigger than that, but generally that's the size they make. And this one is what? Not even 6 foot. And I've had it 5 or 6 years now. And as I've said, if you kind of prune them a little bit, you can keep them small, and as small as you wish, really. And you can go in yearly. If you go in early in the year, early spring, and clip back, then you'll find that you can keep it even smaller, should you wish to do that. While we're here, let's just have a look at this. It's Erythronium, and it's Pagoda. I know I'm doing a tree video, but I just couldn't resist showing this because it's underneath the Acer. Okay, so this is another sorbus, and I've had 3 of these in this garden. One of them went to meet its maker and died. I don't know why, it just did. Now, I've still got the label on this, so we'll have a look at this one as well. So, again, 3 to 4 metres in 10 years. 12 foot, 15 foot. That's about all it'll make. And the beauty about this one, because it's called Autumn Spire, it produces the most amazing colours, again, as a lot of them do. A lot of the mountain ashes make beautiful autumn colours. The other name for this is Flanrock. It was a seedling supposedly found from Joseph Rock, which is a very famous one as well, bigger than this. In Ireland, actually, it was found as well. So originally it was called Flanrock. It's now got the selling name of Autumn Spire. This is just a holly, and this holly was already here when we moved here, and I've done some work on it. I've been cutting it. It'll need a little bit more work doing to it because some of the branches are starting to drop as they do with hollies. They go down towards the ground, and it just happened to have this cracking, leaning trunk, which I really like, and it's things like this that I do look for in trees. They really add to it. They really add to the garden. So a lot of people would want to get rid of that because of the shape of because it's falling over. They think it's falling over, but to me, that's a stunner. Now, the big tall tree behind it was here, obviously, as well, and we're still not sure what that one is. I'm almost convinced it's a Western hemlock, but I don't know. As of yet, nobody's got back to me to actually tell me what it is, but I love it, and we don't chop it down. It's massive. I don't want to chop it down, but if we did, I think the locals would have a lot to say about that, because I think they use it as a bit of a direction pointer for people when they come to the village. Here's another sorbus, and again, Autumn Spire. Now, this one's producing its flowers. These will be white, these flowers. It won't be too much longer before they open up. And then what happens quite a lot with a lot of trees, to be honest with you, is they have these little bits of dieback. So you can see that's dying back, and all I'll do, I'll come in and I'll clip just to there, let that leaf carry on. That's pretty much done. It could come back, but the likelihood is it's better to get rid of it, because it probably won't come back. Even though it's nice and healthy, looks healthy, they tend not to send up leaves again. There's one there that definitely won't come back. Looks like it's trying, but it never will. So I just cut back to the next leaf, just there like that, and then off it goes again. As I said, I've had 3 of these sorbus. There's 2 left here, and I do absolutely love them. Now, one of the smallest sorbuses I've got at the moment is one called Raven's Bill. And it is very small, but that's because I bought it small. But again, it doesn't get very big. So that's another sorbus, a sorbus Raven's Bill, and it is tiny. It's only 3 foot at the moment. I'm sure it's going to get bigger than that, but it is another small grower, another small tree. So like I said, I've got a lot of trees in this garden that I've brought into the garden myself. And you should never fear trees. There's one for every garden, as I've said, be it small or big. There's a tree for every garden. Now that one there, that's Prunus cercifera. Fastigiate is the other name as well. And that's the purple plum, or the purple-leafed plum. It's not a plum, it's a prunus, so it's a cherry tree. It's gone through its phase of pink blossom, that's gone, and now it's producing all of the purple leaves. And it's a beauty, that one. That's its ultimate height now. I've done a lot of work on that tree. Even actually before I moved here, I used to visit this garden and do a little bit of trimming on it for the lady that owned the house before us. She allowed me to come in and do some bit of pruning on it. And that's what I used to do. And at one point I thought I'd actually killed it, because we had a really dry summer, and I think it caused a lot of problems, and I'd really gone for it on the pruning stakes. As you can see from this one here, I've done some severe pruning, and this is what happens as a result. You get all this growing back. This limb was pruned 3 years ago, and it's still sending up these little things early in spring. And again, all you'll do is literally rip them off. There's no point in keeping them. They're not doing anything for the tree. I don't want them there. I want them to be gone. So I shall go back through that again later on and remove the rest of them. So that's Prunus cercifera. Fastigiate. Famous one is nigra. Well, it is nigra. Prunus nigra. Again, as I said, I like sorbus. I really do like sorbus. And this is a commixter. So the Chinese rowan. And this one will make, it's a small tree again, probably make 15, 20 foot. And it'll have more of a shape with that sort of shape like that. And it'll form a big sort of head to it, but more flatter than normal. And it has quite flattened leaves out on it as well. So this is the end of where the flowers are growing. And what'll happen is, oh, where are we on there? Yeah, so the flowers are growing there. The leaves are flattened, as you can see, and this is quite common on this one. And it does that, and then the flower head will drop off, and then the branches will start growing again. And that one's called Sorbus scalaris, but it's a commixter type, so the Chinese one. And I think this will be the last Chinese rowan, sorbus. And this one's called Eastern Promise, and it's tiny at the moment, and again it's a very small tree. There's not a lot to show you on this one, to be honest, because it's very new in, so we'll not go any further on that one. This one is another silver birch, and I absolutely love this. It's what's commonly known as the driveway tree. I've now got two of these. I've got one down at the bottom of this fence, down at the bottom end. You can't see because it's so small, but this one's been in what, 2 years, and again it's a small tree. But it's very fastigiate because it is called Betula fastigiata, and you'll probably find it as Joe's tree or Joe Lep. But it's a really nice skinny one, fastigiate, as you can see. And it'll probably make 30 foot eventually, maybe even 45, but it doesn't matter because it keeps that tight formation. Right, let's just make sure we haven't missed any. I'll show you the other one while we're here. There it is. So that one in the background there, that's the other one. Betula fastigiata, Joe's tree, or Joe Lep. And that looks really nice as well. So, as I said, I've got lots of trees in this garden, and I've never been afraid to plant trees either. And you shouldn't be afraid to plant trees, because we can have large shrubs. So this is a berberis, so we'll just mention this before I finish the video. This is a berberis that was already here, and this can be made to look like a small tree, which is basically what it is. So they're classed as large shrubs or small trees, and you can do this with quite a few. I've also got a viburnum there. That's Burkwoodii. And they can make lovely small trees if you clip them right. The other thing you could do is simply buy a smaller tree, which I've got here. This is Erebotria japonica. And this is commonly called the liquat tree. It's a fruit, I think. I don't know. Never tried it. And this has been grown from seed. Now, although they're a little bit tender in the UK, apparently some of them are hardier than others, and better if you grow them from seed as well. And this is doing really well. So it's a little tree, really. It's not going to be very big. And then we've got this Iralia, which is, to be quite honest with you, is more of a shrub in England, although it can be a 45, 50-foot tree in its native, I think it's Taiwan or somewhere like that. So it's Iralia elata, and it tends to bring off its big leaves. In fact, it does. It mainly brings the leaves from the top of the tree. So from the top of the stem, as you can see, it produces big, almost angel wings, and it's called the Angelica tree. And it can be a spreader. And some people call it the devil's walking stick because it has these very spiny thorns all the way up the trunk. So there you go. All the trees that I've got in the garden up here at Grassy Bottom. Now I'm hoping that that'll be it. That'll be enough, because we have to be mindful that over time these are going to grow to their ultimate sizes. And hopefully I've positioned them in the right places, so they're not going to cause too much of a problem. Should they cause a problem in the future, I'll have no option but to remove them. And I won't be bothered if I do have to remove them. Well, I will be a little bit bothered, but, you know, sometimes you've just got to do that. But hopefully not. Hopefully we shall be able to keep all the trees I've planted in here. If not, add one or two more. I've still got one or two areas where I feel that I could probably get a couple more in. You know what I'm like. The other trees that we've got here to finish the video are these ones here. So the first one's a plum in front of you, and there's another one behind it, and then in the back left hand corner there's an apple tree. And they were here when I came, and I keep them. I'm not really a fruit man, and I've always said that if you grow apple trees, be ready to eat a lot of apples at a certain time of the year. It's famine or feast with apples and plums. You've either got too many or too little. So that's what I commonly call the orchard, although it's not. There's only 3 trees in there. So we'll end where we started, with this absolutely stunning tree here. This has fast become one of my favourites, and I think it's, again, based on the fact that I actually left a sorbus, a Leonard Messel, at a previous address, and I meant to bring it with me, and I left it, and it was smaller than this one, but it had the massive leaves that this one has. So I was pleased to find this, because it's not very easy to get hold of. Although it is out there and it is available, not always easy to get hold of. So there you go. Hope you've enjoyed that little tour of Grassy Bottom and all the trees that I have. If you've got any questions, feel free to send them to me. And don't forget, I also do an Instagram account, agardenersjourney.1, if you want to follow me on that. Okay, so I shall talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!